Top Canadian ministers are headed to President-elect Trump's home in Florida to discuss Canada's plan to secure its border as part of a bid to avoid sweeping tariffs. Joining us now is the Premier of Alberta, Canada, Danielle Smith. It's wonderful to have you on the program today. Thank you for being here. We've seen Canada already shift more officers to patrol the border in preparation for a new administration. We also know these Canadian ministers are in Florida having conversations. What do those conversations look like, given what we've seen over the course of the last 4 years?
Well, I think that they've been very positive. I know that we had started in our province, and our province borders Montana. We had started the process realizing that we needed to do more work on the border and addressing the issue of fentanyl. So we had already started identifying some specialty teams so that they could go to the border, do special commercial vehicle checks, have dogs so that they can sniff out drugs, make sure that we have a band on the border so that if people are coming and going, not an official border crossing, they're probably up to no good and they're going to be stopped. And we also have a plan to put in some aerial vehicles, whether it's drones or some other kind of aerial surveillance. And I think you're going to see that is going to be built out over the rest of the country. The federal government announced $1.3 billion to be able to do it, and I think they're going to hammer down some of the details when Dominic LeBlanc and Melanie Joly visits Mar-a-Lago this week.
Danielle, we know that you know Kevin O'Leary through some business partnerships. We spoke with him yesterday, and he said that half of Canadians actually favor Trump's proposal for Canada to join the U.S. I want you to listen to what he had to say.
Think about the power of combining the two economies, erasing the border between Canada and the United States and putting all that resource up to the northern borders where China and Russia are knocking on the door. So secure that, give a common currency, figure out taxes across the board, get everything trading both ways, create a new almost EU-like passport. I like this idea, and at least half of Canadians are interested.
What do you make?
Well, we've watched the European experiment, which hasn't turned out very well. In fact, you've actually seen it now begin to bust apart as the UK say that it's not working for them. So I would say that we have a really solid, strong relationship as two sovereign countries. We've got this wonderful partnership that we've had since 1993. There's always going to be trade tensions, but I would say that if we could work on that relationship and also work on some of the border issues, have the Americans know that we really do want to be a partner in addressing not only our cross-border security issues, but also more internationally, the threat of China, the threat of Russia, being able to help our allies. We think that Canada and Alberta in particular can be a really strong partner in that, and as two separate sovereign nations.
I've got to ask you about Wayne Gretzky, because President Trump obviously floated his name. He had a meeting with the great one there. And he mentioned that Wayne Gretzky should run for Prime Minister of Canada. I think it was kind of said in a playful manner, but do you think there'd be any interest there from Canadians and Wayne Gretzky himself?
I can tell you, we call him the Great One in Canada for good reason. And I have always been such an incredible Wayne Gretzky fan from when I was a kid. But one thing I would say about Gretzky, he always said, don't go where the puck is, go where the puck is going. And I can tell you in our country, the place the puck is going is Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. He is going to, I think, win the next election. And I think he's going to be an incredible partner for the U.S. on reducing taxes and trying to get our trade relationship back on track. So I think it may have been a playful comment, but I think the name people need to start hearing about is Pierre Poilievre.
Madam Premier, I just want to circle back to something you said, because you're talking about how the United States and Canada can partner and have strength moving forward. But I'm still wondering where the deficit was over the last 4 years. Why did more fentanyl come over the border? Why did illegals cross the border from the north into this country? That's something we've talked about with Congresswoman Claudia Tenney in New York specifically about. I'm just wondering why Canada didn't do its part to just say, you know what, we're going to continue and keep our standards the same, keep the border safe, and not go along with this.
Well, I think you've seen it in the U.S. I mean, I've been watching all the shows about Purdue Pharma and all of the lawsuits that have been happening. We have lawsuits in our country as well about what started off as, I think, the big lie that you could have a safe supply of opioids caused a lot of addiction. And then when we started trying to cut that off, people turned to street drugs. And then, of course, with COVID, I think what happened is that population of organized crime and criminals ended up taking over our large centers. So when we emerged after COVID, we ended up with a big problem. So we've all been trying to play might catch up after that. Also in our country, we used to have pretty strict visa requirements of people coming in to our through the airports. And some of those visa requirements were relaxed, and we ended up with way more people coming into the country than we expected. So we brought those visa requirements back. And so I think there's just been a couple of mistakes that have been made, but I think they're all correctable. And I think there's a will on the part of Canada and the U.S. to work together to make sure we're not causing problems at each other's borders.
Madam Premier, we so appreciate your time today. We'd love to have you back in the new year. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.